What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of a live stream. We are halfway through the week. Happy Wednesday, everybody. And we are halfway to Fight Night at UFC Vegas 72, back at the Apex again. And Wiz, this card is falling apart quickly, man. We are down to 11 fights at this point. I think there's been, what am I counting, 6 canceled fights, including our main event, which was meant to be Renato Moicano and Arman Tsarukyan. But that has been changed to last week's co-main event. We've got Yadong Song taking on Ricky Simone at bantamweight, which I'm not disappointed having 2 extra rounds in this fight. Very good weight class as well at bantamweight. Our co-main event, Caio Borralho taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. But man, we're just losing fights. The Kelleher fight is off, but luckily Journey Newson does have a replacement on short notice. But my God, man, there's some low-level fights in this card. But I think there should be some fight of the night candidates we can go over, and a couple of bets we could make some money on. Wiz, welcome back to the channel, man. It's good to see you. How you been?
So far, so good. I'm glad to be back, and I'm happy to be back. Thank you for having me, as always. And you already know this card is a dumpster fire. We're dropping fights left and right. The fight I was looking forward to the most, obviously, this one got canceled a long time ago, the Tsarukyan and Moicano fight. Moicano is one of my favorite fighters to watch. Dude's always exciting. But regardless, it's another weekend to make money, another weekend of fights to watch, and I'm not complaining. At least it's not an off week. So let's get into this, dude. I'm excited.
Absolutely. We still don't have an off week for a while, right? We got, of course, the Newark card next week, and then there's a few more after that in this streak. So still got plenty of action to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like a month before we have another off week.
Yeah, I think it's Memorial Day weekend at the end of May. So lots of fun action, even though this card is kind of a sketchier one. Those are the cards that kind of deliver half the time, right? The cards where you don't think they're going to go all out and be exciting, and they end up having some, like fight of the month candidates on there. So lucky to have you with me. And I do have your links in the description. You have changed your name now from WizzBets, the man formerly known as WizzBets, to WizzDoes. Do you want to talk about the stuff you've been doing on your channel, Wiz? I've seen some awesome fighter interviews, especially the one I liked with why am I blanking on his name now?
Monkey King?
Yes, yeah, Monkey King. Jordan Levitt. Yes, exactly. I watched that one recently. I loved it.
Yeah, so I've been getting a lot more into the media side of MMA. And as most of you have seen, if you haven't already, you can check the Twitter, the Instagram. I've been doing media for the PFL. I was out there for PFL 1 and PFL 3 in Vegas. And I thank them for having me. It was a really fun experience, and I enjoyed it a lot. Just getting into that side of the sport, saying the name WizzBets just sounded very cringy. It's kind of like when we're watching those UFC press conferences, and it's like, "Hey, Izzy, I have 100,000. Should I parlay you?" Like, it's very cringy just to say it. And like I said it a couple of times, and like, "Hey, this is WizzBets. I'm covering for so and so media." I don't know. I felt like a.
Do you think there's something disrespectful about that in a way, where it's like, you're going to have to go against one of the guys, so it's hard to be a non-biased media person, because if you've got bets in your name, the association is you're going to be on one guy or the other, right? A winner and a loser, not just observing. You think that's kind of part of it?
Absolutely, and that's probably the main part of it, because I did not want to be seen as a guy that only bets. That's the main reason why I got into media. I want to do this for a long time, whether it's paid or non-paid. I really enjoy doing that stuff. So,
and we saw what happened the end of last year, when somebody had a camera in their face and they were talking about betting and things like that. It was James Krause. Didn't really go too well with his career there. So
I had to abandon that for my sake and for the cringe sake. So I let go of that, and looking forward to going out there in June to Atlanta, covering PFL 4 and PFL 6.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I urge all of you guys, if you don't know who Wiz is or you haven't subscribed to his channel, go in the links below. Follow the man on Twitter and on YouTube as well. You do a really good job with making people feel like at ease, and just like not starting so much with you'll talk about their last performance a bit, then you'll talk about kind of like their background and things in their life, and you really let them have room to breathe and talk in the interviews. I like it a lot. So keep up that good work. We'll shout out the chat before we get into these 11 fights at UFC Vegas 72. Our guy Mushroom MMA in the house saying, "What's up, Patrick and Wiz? Let's fucking go." Smash that like button. We got our guy Daz Files in the house as well. The certified gem of MMA Twitter, Jenna Marie, saying like and subscribe. Let's fucking go, Pat. Love to see you in here, Jenna. We have our guy Dale from the Punch List MMA podcast in here as well. What is going on, my friend? Hopping in on 2 accounts, not just 1, but 2. That's how you want to be as a subscriber here. You put all of your fake accounts in here, spam it up, rack up those numbers. Like my guy Zach Singleton in the house saying all love. Let's break into this card, man. We are kicking off the night with a debuting fighter, and there's probably like what, five or six debuting fighters on this card, all said and done. Starting off with 2 on the women's bantamweight, Haley Cowan taking on Jamie Lynn Horth. And Wiz, we've been trying to break down Haley Cowan fights for, I think this is the 3rd time in a row now since her Dana White Contender Series appearance, where she had kind of a lackluster split decision win, but just going to her like D1 athletic background, the kind of potential she has to grow in the sport even at 31 years old. Dana White gave her a contract, and now she's taking on Jamie Lynn Horth, who's undefeated as a Canadian and has a pretty good skill set. Like, I like what I see from Jamie Lynn Horth after diving into her tape. So on the Haley Cowan side, very athletic, more of like a technical. You can tell she's picked up these kickboxing skills recently because everything's very almost robotic, very technical, but not a lot of like aggression or creativity behind it. But she likes to cage clinch and bully girls there. Jamie Lynn Horth, I can see really negating those positions. She's pretty strong, moving up a weight class, but her Muay Thai is good. Her ground game is solid as well. And she's been in some really tough fights before. So I find myself on the Jamie Lynn Horth side only because she's a slight favorite at like minus 140. The comeback on Haley Cowan, just under plus money at this point, like plus 110 or so. And I've actually seen these money lines have moved a little bit too. Jamie Lynn Horth on Bet Online minus 160, Haley Cowan plus 140. So people are liking the Horth side. I don't think I'm going to get there on this fight at that number, but do you have a different opinion on this fight? Are you liking Haley Cowan to make a successful debut?
Yeah, so Haley Cowan is finally going to make her debut. Fingers crossed, maybe. Let's break this down. Horth is coming up a weight class, as you mentioned. I think Horth is pretty dangerous anywhere this fight goes. 100% finish rate, 5 finishes in her only 5 fights, 3 by KO, 2 by sub. Cowan makes a lot of mistakes when it comes to the grappling. If you look at the tape, she's been subbed twice. Cowan's going to have the strength advantage in this fight, just being the more natural at the weight class. And she might find success at the cage push and the control positions against the cage. But as you mentioned, I do think Jamie Lynn Horth is going to be able to reverse those positions and negate them. Anywhere else where this fight goes, as long as it's off the cage, I think it favors Jamie Lynn Horth. And I do like the Horth money line. I liked it when it was at minus 110, minus 115 a little bit. If you got the plus money, good on you. And I have a money line bet on her, 1.1 units at minus 110. I'm looking at the ITD props as well, just for a little bit of a sprinkle.
We're looking at Jamie Lynn Horth inside the distance, plus 200. Haley Cowan inside the distance, plus 750. So not giving too much respect to the finishing ability of Haley Cowan, who, she does have 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, not the highest level of competition. And I would say Jamie Lynn Horth's competition, I think, has been a little bit more impressive and has proved a little bit more than I've seen from Haley Cowan. You've seen Horth in the prominent Canadian promotion BFL in the past for her amateur career as well as her pro career. And like you said, 100% finish rate for Jamie Lynn Horth. So she's a girl that can beat people just with the accumulation of pressure and damage. I saw that fight against Corinne Laframboise where she was able to beat her by, using that anti-wrestling and eventually beat her down the stretch of the fight. Her ground game looks good, man. When she gets full hooks in and gets like back control, I think you're totally right. We could see a submission over Haley Cowan if it does go that way. But how much do you think the size difference moving up a weight class is going to affect this fight at all? Do you think that's a massive ability for Haley Cowan to just use her physicality here?
Now, here's the reason why I didn't go a little bit heavier. There's multiple reasons. A, it's WMMA. You'd never know. B, Horth is coming off of a pretty decent sized layoff, almost 2 years due to a knee injury in her last fight. This is the one thing I actually like about Horth a lot. In her last fight, her knee got absolutely torn up. She tore it completely, not off the bone, but she tore a bunch of ligaments in her knee, and she continued to fight for another round in 2 minutes, I want to say it was.
Yep.
And she ended up winning the fight. Even on the bum knee, she didn't show any reactions. So you can tell the girl is tough. Now, the size difference, I don't think is going to play too much of a factor. maybe in the first round when energy is at an all-time high and the body is all dried up, so it's a little bit easier to get controlled. But as the fight progresses, I think that advantage starts to slip away.
Yeah, I got my guy Dalen here. He's I think he's done some work with Haley on the channel before. So if she's going to lose the fight, it's by sub. So even he's admitting that, but he can't bet against a friend. Yeah, man, I think that's the spot. And it's really just if she can control on the cage and do work with those knees that she likes to throw into her opponents on the Haley Cowan side. But I think Jamie Lynn Horth has enough skills to circle off of that and get back to distance. And that is something I like to see with newcomers to the UFC. What Wiz mentioned is going through adversity, getting through a tough spot where she got put in a leg lock and just didn't even show any emotion on her face. That she felt her knee pop like 6 times. She said the commentary team didn't even pick it up as the fight went on because she had such a poker face and ended up winning that fight down the stretch. So pretty awesome to see. What's up, Zach Johnson in the house? Say what up? Good to see you, my friend. Our guy Dev the Dude, MMA Jesus. He likes the Haley via submission. 5 underdogs have won in a row, opening up the card. Okay, yeah, it seems like a dog-heavy card. There's a lot of even money plays here that I do like as well. So good to see you in here. Mushroom like in the Horth side of the submission. So maybe the chat is going to settle on, just fight ends in submission. What's up to my guy Ryan Jordan giving the double thumbs up. Good to see you. Yeah, so I like the spot that you got the Jamie Lynn Horth at -110 to -120. I'd like it at. Otherwise, probably going to stay off of this one just in general. Do you agree with the way the odds have moved this fight, though, where like as far as the props go, Haley Cowan doesn't have much of a finishing ability, but you think Horth does just based on her record? Do you agree with that, or do you think that Haley Cowan can come in here and get a finish herself?
I don't think Haley is going to be capable to get a finish here, but I do agree with the line movement going towards Horth. But I mean, -160, it's an unproven commodity. Only 5 pro fights. I would not take it here. I would not take it over -130. I mean, even then it's kind of pricey. But -130 would have been the limit where I would have taken her. But yeah, I do think she has a lot of win equity here, just given the finish ability and I just think she's a better striker and better grappler, all-around fighter.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that those long layoffs are kind of less and less of an issue these days in the UFC anyways, right? Like they used to be a really big red flag, and it still is to some extent, when you just don't know what you're going to get from a betting standpoint. But as far as their win probability, I think these people taking like a year and a half off, 2 years off, it's really not affecting them that much coming back if they're within the same age, of not just getting too far past their prime. So yeah, I'm with you there. We're on the same side to kick this off. We can move on to the next fight, which is a catchweight fight now at 140. Journey Newsom was going to take on Brian Boom Kelleher, and I liked Kelleher a lot in that spot. I had a bet on him, but I'm almost afraid to open up Twitter these days because Marcel Dorf is canceling fights left and right this weekend. But now we've got a short notice replacement. Marcus McGhee is coming in to take on Journey Newsom at 140. So very short notice for this guy. He has not fought McGhee since January in the LFA. He's made 2 appearances there. He's a 6-1 professional, trains at the MMA lab, and there's other fighters from that team on this card. So he's around killers. The guy started his amateur career in 2012, somehow didn't make his pro career until 2020 when the pandemic hit. So very good striker. He's got 6 knockouts that make up his 6 wins, but they're not like, Journey Newsom style knockouts where he's knocking guys out cold like, Domingo Pilarte or some people in the regionals. Journey Newsom, he hits you with a clean right hand or a big vicious hook. You're going out cold. Marcus McGhee, it's more of very technical Muay Thai, but, he's got to land in bunches, accumulation of strikes. There's a lot of like mercy stoppages from the referees, but both these guys are, very good strikers up close. It could be exciting. The difference though is Journey Newsom switching it up and going for the grappling. So even though he's got the nice Taekwondo spinning techniques, Journey Newsom does like to shoot a takedown here and there. But in the UFC, he's been facing nothing but better grapplers, coming off that dominating decision loss to Sergey Morozov. He's been out-grappled by Ricardo Ramos before. So I think he's a better grappler than Marcus McGhee, and that's where we've seen McGhee struggle in the past. So where the money line has been at, I saw some people getting really big plus money on McGhee when it dropped. I saw like north of plus 200. Bet Online right now has Journey Newsom at -190, McGhee at +165. I still, with those odds, I lean towards the Newsom side with all of the intangibles, short notice, and things like that. Just UFC experience, more well-rounded. But McGhee, I mean, the guy's a savage, man. If there's like some big inside the distance props when they release those, I wouldn't be opposed to taking some of those. This could be close if they decide to bang it out close range. So what do you like about this fight, Wiz? Are you which side of the Kelleher-Newson site were you on? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit before we went live. I haven't done too much research on the McGhee side, but when it came to the Kelleher-Newson side, I was going to be on the Kelleher side. I was just waiting for the money line to drop, which it did today, and I was about to lock in at minus 140, and then the fight got canceled. So yeah, I just thought Kelleher would have had the takedown ability. It was just a clear path of victory for him. The pressure takedowns, and the way he was talking about this fight, it was like, it's do or die. I'm coming into this knowing I'll get cut if I lose and whatnot. But regardless, Kelleher is out of this fight. It's Journey Newson against Marcus McGhee now. And I'll just break down Journey Newson just since I haven't really taped McGhee. And yeah, I do like Newson's power in the striking. He does throw quite a bit of volume. And this guy McGhee, I mean, on short notice, catch weight, it's super last minute. Like, guys, this literally happened today. So how much preparation do you even think this guy has been putting in? No, like, disrespect or anything, but also Newson just faced a better level of competition, regardless win or loss. And he's been in the UFC for a lot longer than this guy McGhee, who's making his debut. I think Newson should be able to get the takedowns and use his black belt to give McGhee some trouble. But we haven't seen that in the UFC, so you can't rely on it. If I were forced to bet this fight, it would obviously be the Newson money line. I do think it might drop a little bit more because I've seen a lot of love on Twitter for the McGhee side. When it first opened, it was around the minus 230 to the plus 230 to 240 on McGhee, and now it's all the way down to plus 160. So I think it drops a little bit more for Newson down to around like minus 180 or 175, and then whoever wants to take it there, by all means. But I can't take that because it's someone who's been preparing for a fight against a completely different opponent, and they just switched it up on him within a couple days' notice. So yeah. I just can't do that. I'm rooting for Newson. I'm rooting for a good fight, and I think this fight has some violence potential. The unders, if it's under 2.5, obviously I haven't seen the line for the over/under if it is available on this fight. But if it's under 2.5, it might be a solid look if it's not juiced up.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I think some people, when the short notice change up happens, they say, well, look, Kelleher was favored over Journey Newson, and now we've got a guy who some people are claiming is better than Brian Kelleher. At least he's younger by about 4 years, less fight miles. Obviously doesn't have like the several losses on his record that we've seen from Kelleher before. But I just think Kelleher would have been able to mix it up more with the grappling, be more dominant on top, and also still have the ability to work on the feet competitively, right? In this fight, I don't see any, like, I watched all the fights of McGhee. I'm not seeing him offensively grapple at all. There's been a couple of spots where, like, he's dove on necks before, just like in a wild scramble, but never much success. In fact, it's the opposite. He's usually getting out wrestled. So fight talk only in here. What's going on, my friend? Eating a steak right now. Medium? Man, more than if it's medium rare or medium or well done, it's about the size, man. It's about how many ounces are you working with. Tell me the ounces. You're not eating 16 plus, man, then I don't know. You might as well be eating a salad at that point. So, yeah, well, put out the ounces in the chat. What's going on, Sophie Simpson? Good to see you in here as well. Man, he's really making me hungry now with talking about bacon in a sandwich. But, man, I tell you what, I think you hit the nail on the head. I wanted to find some props for this card. I don't have many bets. I've got like 3 remaining money lines. A couple of props that all are on one fight we're going to talk about soon. But I want to look for some violent spots because I think there are some. And this fight certainly could be, if they give us anything less than like minus 180 or better on this one for under 2.5, if they screw it up like that, I like it. So we've never seen Marcus McGhee go to a decision before, so they might kind of price it a little bit higher. But we did see him go to decision one time on his amateur career. He got out wrestled all 3 rounds. But again, that was 9 minutes instead of 15 for an amateur. So we can move on from that one. It is a fun fight. I think this one, Marcus McGhee is super exciting. A lot of people are going to really become a fan of his if he sticks around the UFC. But moving right along to another debuting fighter that I think a lot of people are excited about. The debut of Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva, taking on Stephanie Egger, who we've seen in the UFC. This is at women's bantamweight. Wiz, I want you to kick this one off, man. What do you make of this new girl, Irina Alekseeva, with her 4-1 record coming in here? I got to say, based on the tape, I'm not sure why she's here. Kick it to me.
I don't make anything of this girl, to be quite honest with you. So here's the thing, like just to break it down on a high level, Alekseeva is more of a judo player than a full MMA fighter. And what is Stephanie Egger? What have we seen her do? She is a judoka by all means, with the full definition of the word. And I think in this spot, Egger can just go out there and get this done via sub. I already have a bet locked in here, and I'll mention it at the end of the breakdown. But Alekseeva, with all due respect, is far off from UFC level. As you mentioned, her striking is very basic with the combos. She really throws a 1-2 and sometimes follows it up with that 3, and that's it. And on the mat, she makes a ton of mistakes that I think Stephanie Egger can take advantage of. This is at someone. I need to look into that a little bit more. But give me Egger by sub. I already have Egger sub 1 specifically. I mean, you don't go out there and call yourself the Russian Ronda after only having a one armbar finish in your career. Like, come on. Who gave her that nickname and why?
It looks like, I wonder if it's because of her grappling or if it's because she looks like, in certain pictures, she looks like if Ronda Rousey had like a lesser attractive cousin.
Let me see.
In like certain pictures, if you look at it, like she kind of has like a Rousey-esque face to her, but
definitely not the Tapology picture.
No, not that one. There's been a couple of, like, I saw one of her fights in Russia, and like the picture that they used, I'm like, I can see her kind of looking like an off-brand Ronda, you know? I think
yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's one in particular, one of her fights, an awful fight, by the way. Like her opponents were terrible. And her last fight, she actually fought somebody decent in her last fight, but the only reason that Alekseeva, I think, won that fight is because she looked like she was 3 weight classes above this girl. You know what I mean? So it almost looked like when Luana Carolina took on Godinez on short notice. Like, you know, one girl's probably technically better, but, you know, you got somebody so massive, it's like, what are you going to do? They're going to get bullied around. Stephanie Egger, man, I like your inside the distance props. I love those on this fight. I wish that there were more money because it's not like the sneakiest play for the bookies. They know that she finishes fights inside the distance or gets finished there. In fact, her only fight that has seen the scorecards in the UFC was that debut to Tracy Cortez. So unless you've got better grappling than her or can negate her takedowns, like I don't think you're going to have much success over her at this level. So yeah, I think Stephanie Egger should go through this new girl here. But I mean, my God, to see Stephanie Egger at minus 300 on the money line is just wild to see. So because of that, I would look towards the props or even the fight doesn't go. If you want to play both sides, you're not feeling like, there might be like a trick up the sleeve of the Russian Ronda here. That's plus money. I saw plus 110 tonight for fight doesn't go. I think that was Bovada. So that might be like the safer way to play it if you're going to parlay up some violence here. But yeah, we're both seeing the same things here. And I like the video that you retweeted too of like her promo for the UFC where she's like doing little slow motion combination. Like, no, that's too fast. That's too fast. It was super slow. And you know it, dude. It was super slow. She threw like a half a mile an hour knee. And then she just started like dancing at the end. It was the whole thing was regrettable. And I don't know.
Yeah,
she's like
that sub 1 line. It was just too juicy for.
What's the number?
I got it at plus 500.
Jesus. Okay, I might have.
I know for a sub 1, like exact method, exact round, that's pretty bad. But in this situation, you got to think that's the highest outcome, like highest percentage outcome here.
The last time we saw Alekseeva, we do have to point this out too, was October of 2021. I think it was that Russian Bellator card. So, unless she's made leaps and leaps and leaps and bounds and bounds and bounds of improvement, I think she gets subbed in round 1. So that's where we're at with it. But yeah, I think Dale is right. Egger by sub, the most popular prop this week. Yeah, it's like that. Maybe the Brundage Viera finish props as well. Those are up there. So yeah, I might have to. That might be one of the props I'd jump on if I can find a good line. And I know DraftKings in the next day or two is going to start adding those same game parlays, which I've fallen in love with because it's like the ultimate degenerate way to play fights. Like just parlaying a bunch of, they tie for knockdowns. Egger gets a takedown or 2. It ends in round 1 by submission. Like if you could just start racking up that plus money on a same game parlay, I'm all for that as well. So
Dude, their lines are just horrible. Like, even though I don't have access to DraftKings out here, I've seen it from a couple of people where these lines are just completely mispriced when they first drop. So all power to you.
Yep. Mushroom saying Russian Ronda from one armbar. What a fucking joke. I just imagine him screaming that in his fight studio as well with the mushroom art on the walls. But we can move right along. Finally leaving this bantamweight division. The first 3 fights were like all around 135. Now we're moving down to 125. Flyweight bout between Cody Durden and Charles Johnson. This fight has gotten increasingly more exciting to me just from seeing everybody's just opposing viewpoints of this fight. Is it going to be the striking of Charles Johnson, the takedown defense, or is it going to be Cody Durden's relentless wrestling? But I think people are forgetting that Cody Durden has pretty good striking as well. You know, we saw him in his last fight against Carlos Mota, who's a very good striker, and the guy was so worried about the takedown threat, Durden basically dropped him, and before he could get knocked down, he took him down. So racking up massive amounts of control time. Cody Durden is a guy that tends to start really fast and maybe fade as the fight goes on, and Charles Johnson's sort of the opposite. Like, he starts a little bit slower, warms up, and then starts accumulating output as the fight goes. So kind of a weird contrast of styles in this fight. My only lean on this fight, since it's so close, I like the plus money side of Cody Durden. I'm not playing that. I think it's going to be a sweat. So what I played is a quarter unit on the fight goes to split at plus 450. Took either guy for a tenth of a unit at plus 800 to win by split. And then I took a unit on the fight goes to decision at minus 180. So that's where I'm at. I'm on this going to decision. Neither guy has been finished by strikes. In fact, Charles Johnson has never been finished in his career in total. So I think this is going to be close. I think there's going to be at least one judge scratching their head like, I don't know, man. That guy punched the other guy in the face more, but he got taken down and held down for 2 rounds. I don't know. And they're going to write down just 10s and 9s arbitrarily. Split decision. I'm going to cash it. Where are you at on this fight, Wiz? Do you have a money line bet?
Yeah, this is a very close fight, as you mentioned. Durden does tend to slow down as the fight goes on. If his cardio holds up and he can get the takedowns consistently, I think this fight's going to play very close and leaning more towards in his favor. But we've seen Johnson, like, his takedown defense is very good. And every time he gets taken down, he pops right back up instantly. We saw in that Mokaev fight, who I think Mokaev is levels ahead of Cody Durden in the wrestling. Immediately popped back up, even though Mokaev got 5 takedowns on Johnson. How many minutes of control time did he actually rack up with those takedowns? That's the real question. And then when you're talking about the striking, I think Johnson's just going to be much better. I think Cody is going to struggle finding Johnson. That's the biggest issue I see here. So if it plays on the feet, I think Johnson can just piece him up for the 3 rounds. Johnson is going to have the cardio edge. Obviously, the last fight was not a good look for him. But you got to remember, this was on very short notice, like about a week. And it was a catchweight bout. Didn't have time to prepare. So you can't really shun the guy too much for that. And I just think this is just a classic striker versus grappler matchup where I, for once, tend to lean towards a striker. And I lean Charles Johnson. When I first saw the line, it was around like minus 170 to minus 180 Johnson. I'm like, hell no, I'm just going to stay off. And then as the line started to keep creeping down and I see everyone Durden. This line's at minus 140 right here. If I see minus 130, I'm pulling the trigger on Johnson. It's just, I think he's the much better fighter here. Cody Durden has only shown us wrestling, and yeah, against Carlos Mota, he dropped him, but that was after Mota was just death gassed. So you can't really factor that in too much. So yeah, I have to take Johnson here if it goes at minus 130, but that's just my opinion, obviously.
Yeah, it's a spot where the line has moved. There's been so much Cody Durden love that it's lowered that line, tightened it up. And currently on DraftKings, we're looking at minus 140, Charles Johnson, plus 120, Cody Durden. And I think I even saw my guy Cody, Blood Money MMA Bets. He hit the casino early, probably like last week or so, and got plus 170 on Cody Durden. Like, I'm with that on a money line bet for sure. Where the money line is at now, I would be more on the Johnson side, but all I know is it's going to be close. That's what I'm banking on here. So I'm just not going to pick a side on this one. I think I missed out on the nice line, and I think it's getting closer to being a Charles Johnson play from a betting perspective. And the guy's been incredibly active, dude. Like Charles Johnson, he got the LFA title from Carlos Mota in the LFA last January, and then he made his debut 6 months later against Mikhaev, then fought 4 months later against Zalgas, then fought 2 months later against Jimmy Flick. A month after that, he fought Ode Osborne. Now 2 months later, he's fighting Cody. Like, this guy is fighting at a massive, massive pace, and he's just getting paid every time. What do you think about that as a combat fighter yourself, man? As a guy who's getting in the ring, what do you think about not only the high frequency of fighting at this level, but what do you think about his striking in general? That hands low style. What like advantages do you see from that, and do you think it's going to work against Cody Durden, just keeping the defense a little bit low?
Now, staying active is a good thing, but being very active can be very taxing on the body. I mean, when you're fighting that often, you're gonna have lingering injuries that don't have enough time to recover. You're gonna have, mainly because you're not having enough food in your system. You don't have enough time to get all those extra carbs and extra protein in your body before you start cutting weight again. And then you start training and you spar and you re-aggravate those injuries. So that's one thing that I don't like about being very active. Like, I think a fighter, ideally 2 to 3 fights a year is probably the best, but I'm no professional. I don't have a professional team with me with nutrition and all that. So I can't speak for in terms of accuracy and how accurate that is, but that's just how I see it from what I've studied.
Yeah, but your gym where you train, like, you see these guys preparing for fights, you're helping some of these guys get ready for contests at this level, so you do have a good understanding of it, right?
Yeah, that's just from what I've seen. And the striking with the hands down thing, I mean, that just comes down to confidence in how well you can dodge shots. If you're able to do it, I mean, we've seen Izzy do it his whole career. His hands are down for the most part. And how often does Izzy get hit? It's very rare. So if you're,
do you think it's going to help? Do you think it's going to help him like dig underhooks right away, like stuff some of the takedowns? Is he like going to be on grappling ready defense mode, or do you think that's not a factor?
Absolutely, because when your hands are down, it's less of a motion to go from right here to all the way down. Your hands are already at where the base is, so it's easier to stuff. Sure. You can easily push the head down and get out of the way of these takedowns. But the biggest thing is you're able to dodge shots quicker, because when your hands are up and you're dodging punches, sure, you might eat one and it gets blocked, but we still see those blows affect the fighter. When you're moving out of the way left and right, you're getting a lot more speed and you're rolling with the punches per se. He likes to roll with the punches when they're getting thrown at him. And I think that works in Charles Johnson's favor, especially since Durden doesn't have the cleanest striking out there.
Yeah, right. He's really more of a brawler, getting in close, and he's got a lot of distance to cover, a lot of, I want to say the reach. Is Cody Durden one of these guys with like a massively long reach for his height, or no? 70-inch reach I'm looking at for him. We're looking at Charles Johnson right around it's about the same reach, even though their height is, I guess they're not even that far apart. I always think that Charles Johnson's super tall, but he's just tall for a flyweight, I guess. So they're almost the same height here.
Where are you seeing the 70-inch reach for Cody? Because on Tapology, it's 67 and then 70 for
67?
Johnson.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I'm on the UFC site. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, you're right. I'm looking at it wrong. 67 for the Southpaw Cody Durden. Okay, gotcha. So a couple inches off. That does match the height difference as well. So, yeah, he's going to have to close that range. But we're on opposite sides of this one from a pick perspective. But I think we agree on the money line, right? Like, if you're a Durden backer with the money line, you kind of missed the spot here. The odds are shifting. But, man, as much as he's going to work to get those takedowns, anybody with that plus money, dude, I think you're in a good spot here for somebody that's going to fight for your dollar. There's sometimes when I feel like Charles Johnson should just be doing more in a fight. Like we saw that against Ode Osborne last time. There's some spots even against Zalgas Zumagulov where it's like, man, just wish he would put the pedal to the metal a little bit earlier. But you're not going to have that problem with Cody Durden. So can't wait to see how this one shakes out. I'm just hoping the judges don't know what happened and I cash that split. So
I hope so too for your sake.
So let's do it here. What's up, Ice Viking? Good to see you. WizzDoes motivational whiteboard quotes. The best learning experience is failure.
All the way at the top.
Dude, what if you just succeed all the time? Why does one have to fail?
I haven't seen that happen yet.
Sounds like a loser's mentality, dude. I want any of my bets to fail this weekend. Let's get it so we can move right along to the next fight. Finally, get these small weight classes out of here. I'm with my guy Fight Talk Only, eating massive steaks, going to the heavyweight division. Martin Buday versus Jake Collier. Both are big boys that weigh in at the heavyweight limit. 265 for Collier's last fight, 266 for Buday's last fight. And both of these guys left a lot to be desired in the last performance, man. Like, Collier had a very fun fight against Chris Barnett, an opponent that both these guys share, but even though it was a fun fight, like, the guy got clobbered, taken down, and then just pounded out and had to get saved by the ref in round 2. So after swelling up the eye of Chris Barnett, having him knocked down like once or twice in round 1, could not finish the job, and he let the small, 5'5" heavyweight and Chris Barnett, just destroy him. So pretty embarrassing loss. Martin Buday at least handled Chris Barnett as he should have in his debut. Pretty much got a TKO in round 3 against the cage. Had some illegal strikes to the back of the head that made it a technical decision. But Martin Buday, the guy's a finisher. He's a very big, massive frame for heavyweight, more of the true to the division, physique. Jake Collier is big at this point, but, he used to be at middleweight, and he could shred off some of that fluff a little bit easier. You look at the joint size of Martin Buday, you look at his legs, his kneecap, you could tell this guy was meant to be at heavyweight. And his clinch striking game is very good, bullying guys there, making them wear his weight. But we saw him in his last fight kind of get gifted a decision win against Lucas Brzeski because he chose to abandon that strategy and strike at range. So as long as he doesn't do that in this fight, I think he should be good to just bully Jake Collier, wear his gas tank out, use those clinch knees and weapons there, maybe even get a takedown off the cage, which we haven't seen Buday do in the UFC, but I've seen him do that in the regionals. So I think that would be a massive way to improve his odds of not letting Collier get off any output towards his direction if he just took him down. So Martin Buday is the pick. The money line is almost at evens. Martin Buday a slight underdog at minus 105. We got like minus 115 or so for Jake Collier. What do you make of this fight, man? Should I be giving more credit to like the high striking output of Jake Collier here?
Here's the thing with this fight. I mean, tail of the tape is almost identical between these two guys, regardless of who the real heavyweight is. It's 6'4" for Buday against 6'3" for Collier, and then the reach, Collier actually has an inch and a half of reach advantage here, which that's not going to really do much. Collier's last fight against Barnett was a pretty bad look, but when you look back at it, it's the guy gassed out from trying to finish Barnett so much. He had Barnett out of there. Any other ref, I think, would have stopped the fight, but he was unloading. And when you unload like that and you don't get the guy out of there, it's very, very hard to recover. And it's kind of like when you're in a jiu-jitsu match and you're using pure strength to move a guy off of you rather than skill or technique. You're going to gas yourself out, and how often do you catch a second wind? It's very unlikely. So here's the thing. I think you can definitely out-muscle Collier against the cage, but maybe you can get the takedown, utilize the ground and pound he's shown the regional scene, and win the fight. But what Buday cannot afford to do is fight like how he fought against Brzeski, because Brzeski doubled him up on strikes, and I think Collier can triple him up on strikes if he wants to play that game. Collier, we've known him to be that volume striker that will go out there against Arlovsky and match him toe for toe, but he just doesn't have that power. He's a middleweight that just ate a lot of McDonald's or something and got his weight up to heavyweight. That's just how it is. Buday being the more natural heavyweight, I think he has the cardio advantage here to go all 3 rounds. I think Buday is probably going to get this done, but you will not find me taking any money out of my wallet to put on this fight. There's no way. Like, I don't want myself through the mental strain, through the anger of just looking at these guys go at it, because one way or another, I know I'm going to be disappointed in some form or some fashion. So yeah, Jake Collier is just like me if I ate a lot of McDonald's. That's the moral of the story.
And you always know that the heavyweights don't have like either a high ceiling or much finishing potential. When they line, it's almost like if I was a heavyweight in the UFC, I would take it as an insult if the sportsbooks lined my heavyweight fight at the over under 2.5. But that's what we have here. Over under 2.5, minus 135 for the over 2.5, and the under is plus 105. Where do you fall in terms of that in this fight? Because I think it's, like you said, Collier decision. maybe a late finish. If there's always a case that Buday could gas himself out. That comes with the territory of being a heavyweight. But I think it's Buday inside the distance or decision is more likely. But Collier probably a decision is the path. What do you think about the over/under in this fight?
Just looking at Collier's record, he hasn't really faced a heavy-hitting heavyweight. And when he got hit by Barnett last fight, the man was shut down. And I mean, Barnett has some power, but I wouldn't consider him like a real heavyweight because we've seen Barnett.
Right.
Yeah. I think Buday can get the finish early if he lands a couple of solid shots, maybe an elbow against the cage.
He's not taking Buday down and choking him out, does he? Like, that's not in the cards.
I don't think that happens. If he wasn't able to do it to Barnett in that position, I don't think he's going to do it to Buday. Buday's a much bigger guy, and I guess the circumference of Barnett did not allow it. But
we're looking at a 2-4 record at heavyweight for Jake Collier at this point. The 2 wins being Jean Vellante by decision, Chase Sherman round 1 rear naked choke. So that tells you a lot about the level. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Carlos Felipe fight very close, but it is Carlos Felipe no longer in the UFC. The Andre Arlovsky fight very close. In fact, I thought Arlovsky had lost that fight just based on like the end of the fight. Like there was a takedown.
Mad at that one. So mad.
A takedown or two. Were you on the Collier side of that one?
Yes, I felt like that was the beginning of the judging corruption in the UFC. Oh my god.
I was on the Arlovsky side, man. The Arlovsky decision train kept chugging along that day.
I'm glad at least one of us cashed.
Yeah, dude. You give me Arlovsky by decision, I'm gonna bet it almost every time and be surprised when a guy later on this card ended that streak. So what's up, Lou Betya? Good to see you in here, man. Handsome crew doing the show. You guys should work out more though. Pretty much, dude. Oh man, look at those peaks. Look at those bicep peaks. My God.
Nothing compared to you. Your biceps gonna out-angle my whole body.
Well, come on, it's unfair. That's all I do. You're over here kicking people and shit. I'm just lifting weights. But we can move right along. Very fun fight. Oh, and speaking of Lou Betya in here, I know he's got a yam bag play on this one. I can almost guarantee it. Just seems like a Lou Betya yam special. Buday versus Collier.
This was my pick for the yam bag this week. Nice. I graduated from Yam Bag University. Lou gave me my certificate and everything. I'm there. That's it.
I saw him reply. He replied to Michael Bisping on Twitter and asked him if he was opposed to using the word yam bag as a term for low blows on commentary. How funny would that be if he tries to use the word yam bag and talk as a Lou? I would piss myself laughing. But we can move on to a very fun fight. This fight I do have a pretty strong lean on. Short notice fight between Josh Quinlan and Trey Waters at welterweight, 170-pound bout. Josh Quinlan was supposed to take on Angelusa, which I thought would have been a much tougher test just because of the durability of Angelusa. But he's taking on Trey Waters, who's stepping in on very short notice here, like less than 2 weeks' notice. Trey Waters, very tall welterweight, like 6'4" or 6'5", however they choose to bill him. We saw him on the Contender Series last season. Got sacrificed to one of the Bomb Fiend brothers, and of course he got Von Flood after getting pieced up on the feet pretty harshly. So Josh Quinlan's a guy, man, 6-0 for the Hawaiian, who's been training at Vand Fight Team, which I don't think is any longer a thing, but out in Vegas. And the guy kind of fights like a Vanderlei Silva emulator, nice high guard, a very traditional Muay Thai knees, and just powerful hooks up close, man. This guy has lights out power. Out of his 6 wins, 5 of them are knockouts, 2 of them submissions, and those knockouts are vicious. We just saw him take out Jason Witt in his debut, and just one of the most spectacular knockouts, head bouncing off of the canvas after he was able to get taken down and work his way back up. So somebody that's got more of a dynamic game and able to wrestle, Josh Quinlan, I think could probably give him trouble down the road, but I don't think that's going to be Trey Waters, who's, again, on short notice, kind of a hands-down style, leaves his chin exposed. He's got that tall man defense where he draws back in a straight line and assumes nobody's going to be able to reach his chin, but he gets hit very often, and he's coming off of a very big right cross knockout over Jalen Fuller, but he, of course, and that was in LFA just recently, so what was that? I think the 14th of April, so very short turnaround between fights, and he was losing that fight up until he got that knockout, so despite his 7-1 record, a lot of these are come from behind victories, and he's getting either out grappled or out volumed on the feet in his fights before he pulls something out of his ass. So he could certainly do that here. Seems to be his method, but I think Josh Quinlan knocks him out under 1.5 rounds. So I put 2 units on Josh Quinlan at minus 150. When that dropped, he's still around minus 180 or minus 190. That's how I'm playing this, man. I like the unders in this fight as well. What do you like about Trey Waters? Say something nice about him since I've kind of been crapping on him.
I wish I could. I mean, I like that he's huge.
That hurts so much more to hear you say that.
I mean, I like that he's huge for the division, but it's the ability, man. He in this situation, the hands down defense doesn't really do him a favor. My favorite bet, I'm gonna cue this. Mushroom has me for this one. Violence, baby. Like, I love violence in this spot. Quinlan.
You got to try that again. You got to be louder than that if you're doing a mushroom impression.
So, okay, mushroom impression. I'm gonna have to do this first. Violence, baby.
There we go. That was pretty good. You got the Philly hand rub going.
Exactly. Quinlan is finishing all of his wins, and Waters is finishing 6 of 8 of his wins. Waters is coming in this fight on very short notice. He fought like 10 or 11 days ago. Waters is a huge welterweight, as we mentioned, 6'5", 77-inch reach. So he's going to have a 5-inch reach and height advantage here. Quinlan has real KO power. Even though he's off the juice now, I feel like it's not going to matter too much once your body absorbs that shit. I mean, it's in there. And I don't like how Waters, as I mentioned, keeps his hands down when he fights. He's definitely there to be hit, and I think Quinlan's going to probably put him to sleep in this spot in the first round. So I like Quinlan ITD. Probably not going to play that because I think both guys do have finish equity. So I'm going to be betting the unders once it releases. I don't have DraftKings or anything, so I'm just waiting for my offshores to release the unders, but under 1.5. As long as it's not no crazy price, I'm going to be taking that here. But yeah, violence.
Good call, man. I like Josh Quinlan, and yeah, I see a lot of people still giving him flack for the steroid positive test in the Contender Series, which made that a no contest on his record. Otherwise, he would be 7-0 with 6 knockouts. That's just part of the game, man. Like, at the high level, it's part of the game, especially guys coming into the UFC on short notice. You see a lot of short notice calls. They're able to use a certain level of performance enhancement on the regionals. There's a certain level of like non-USADA testing and things that are a little bit more fair, to be honest, with how they drug test. But when you come to the UFC on short notice, a lot of these guys know they're not going to pass the test, but to get that show money, get the check, they'll take the risk and see what they can get away with. So he's not off the juice. There's no, like, most of these guys, it's statistically insignificant of which UFC fighter is not on something to help their performance. You'd be dumb not to. What's dumb, though, is Josh Quinlan admitting that he used it to gain an advantage. That's something you never do. You always deny. Then you always say, oh, man, my coach gave it to me. I thought it was a B12 shot. I thought it was a multivitamin. I don't know how this happened. You start crying. But what he did was he admitted he used it for a performance enhancement. That's why he got a big suspension for it. He could have just said, like, man, it just fell in my food or something, like everybody else does. But him, who else? TJ Dillashaw admitted that he did something wrong for an advantage, 2-year suspension. You got to lie your first time, man. Like, you got to start lying about this. Like everybody else. That's my only issue with it. Otherwise, it's all good, and I'm glad he's trying to gain an advantage. That's what you should be doing as a fighter, man. So Papa Chuck in the house saying, hey, dudes, violence. Love to see you in here, Papa Chuck. Let's get after it. Hopefully there is some violence from the Josh Quinlan side come Saturday. And I've seen a lot of people also make a very good point that I've neglected to bring up, which is how big Trey Waters is, how short notice this fight is. Will he make weight, or is he going to miss weight on the scales? He's got to be 170 at 6'5". So, Wiz, I mean, how likely do you think? Like, which fighter's going to miss weight? Like, he's definitely a candidate for missing weight this week.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a candidate to miss weight. But, given that I was about to say given that he just fought, I mean, maybe he's still hovering around or close to that way. But you know how much these fighters gain the day after they weigh in. It's insane. The water weight and the food. And then you have those. And
as a guy that's you're like as big as Trey Waters, like that you can fluctuate a lot more on a day-to-day basis than most people, right? Like just day-to-day fluctuate. You take your morning piss and you're down 5 pounds at your height,
Yeah, the bigger guys tend to gain in multiples. Like you'll gain 5 to 10 pounds within a day, within like 6 hours. It's that simple. You're just drinking water and eating regular meals with carbs. You're going to get up there right after you weigh in. So I don't know if he's going to be able to make weight. I hope he does, just so this fight doesn't get canceled, because God forbid we get another cancellation. What are they going to do? Throw me in there.
Throw him in there. Throw WizzDoes UFC. Throw him in there. I'm looking at Trey Waters. I'm looking at Jake Collier, and I'm looking at Irina Russian Ronda Alekseeva. Those are my three candidates for missing weight or something going wrong in the scales. Hey, Dave knows what's up. You ain't trying if you're not cheating. You're only cheating if you get caught. Goddamn right, dude. That sounds like a Chael Sonnen quote. I think he said something like that as well. SD Crusader liking a fighter who pops as well. That's what we should like as gamblers, man. Because, we don't care if they pop and get suspended. Our bet still cashes. Let's go. I like it.
The real question that someone needs to ask Josh Quinlan is, was he shooting it up the cheek or on the thigh?
True, yeah. He was on Drostanolone, which is a drug you don't see a lot. It's something called Masteron, and it's an injectable that he got popped with on the Contender Series. And what people like about that, especially for MMA, if you had to, you've seen Anderson Silva pop for that in the past. You've seen a couple of other guys. It doesn't give you extra water weight like some other more anabolic steroids do. So you get all the effects, red blood cell count, muscle mass, less fat, but you're not going to get that extra water retention as well. So that's something that is going to be common. I mean, it's something that you don't pop for a lot. Like, it's something that is a shorter clearing time. But I think they also caught him on that Tyrannobol metabolite, that M3 metabolite that you see Jeff Nowitzki always yelling about with John Jones. I think he popped for that as well. So they had to move his last fight. But yeah, that's another thing on the steroid topic. One last thing that people always forget when the betting community, they talk about, oh, this guy, they caught him with the substance. Now he's clean for this fight. It's like, dude, they caught him with one thing. He's on 7 or 8. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't catch the other things. So
we've seen the needles in Usman's abs.
Yeah, something to consider. Yeah, exactly. And his brother's a prime candidate as well. His brother looks like he's hogging it all. Good old Mo Usman, just hogging, just
That's
a pantry. Yeah. When you go to the pharmacist and you see all the shelves of pills, that's like his pantry at his house.
No, he is the owner of the pharmacy.
He's got the white coat on. All right, we can move on to Waldo Cortes-Acosta taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima at heavyweight. This is another one of these fights like the Buday Collier one where I just can't see myself betting on either fighter here. Kind of like Jake Collier, you've got Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Can't believe I'm comparing them, but you've got like more of the volume output over 3 rounds, potentially with the boxer of Waldo Acosta. Marcos Rogerio de Lima, more of a well-rounded game, but the guy can gas out as the fight progresses. But if he can get like a grappling-based performance going like he did against Maurice Green a few years ago, that was beautiful to bet on that guy at like minus 170, minus 180. Watch him lay on top of Maurice Green for like 14 minutes. Most boring fight in the world, but when you got money on him, it was very exciting to see that game plan employed perfectly.
Yes,
and he can also just blitz you early and knock you out like Ben Rothwell or Andre Arlovsky. So I find myself on the De Lima side, and if you got giant plus money on him, I still wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But I mean, as an underdog goes, I'll take him to win. I'm not sure how he does it. Probably a smothering decision, and then he falls apart in round 3 and loses that one. 29-28, Rogerio de Lima. What do you think about this fight, man? Do you like Cortes-Acosta as a heavyweight prospect?
Well, wait. First of all, isn't de Lima the favorite here?
I'm sorry. Yeah, he's the favorite. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Just wanted to.
It was like minus 170, and it's moved. I think around that area, right? We're looking at minus 190 now for de Lima. Waldo Cortes-Acosta plus 160. What I meant was like if you got like a shorter number on de Lima, like if I saw some minus 130s, some minus 140s. That like you could feel better about, but still I wouldn't feel comfortable laying any chalk in this guy whatsoever. Now it's almost 2-1. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, I would have loved the 130 line, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just say how it is. It's a huge step up in competition for Acosta. Huge. De Lima should be able to take Waldo down at will, and I think he can exploit the poor ground game of Waldo. We also saw how much Acosta struggled with the leg kicks of Chase Sherman. And we know how De Lima throws his leg kicks. He throws them to break your leg, to puncture your ribs, to kill you. Like he's there to take you out with those leg kicks. Full power. I fear for the cardio of De Lima, for whoever has him here. That's the only thing. We've seen mixed results with the cardio. And sometimes he fades, sometimes looks great. I just think that Pezao is going to be able to win very clearly here, as long as he just doesn't stand in front of Waldo and get jabbed, because let's face it, Waldo Acosta has only shown jabbing ability in the UFC. He doesn't really have that power like Lima has. I think De Lima can knock him out. I think De Lima can win via those leg kicks, similar to like a Chris Gutierrez win, and I think he can win a decision with grappling. So yeah, I would have loved it anywhere from -130 to 150, but at this point, it's just getting out of hand. So I'm interested in watching the fight, not interested in betting it at this price.
Any props sticking out besides like where do you stand on the, we see Jimmy in here saying the over 1.5 in this fight. Do you have a preference? Because I know, De Lima, like I said, it's the tale of two fighters. Either he gets the job done early, in round one, which would go to the under at plus money, or he can kind of just like grind on you and, chop down the legs, maybe employ a cage stalling, work for some takedowns type of game plan and just get a decision that way. Where do you see this falling, the over or under 1.5?
I do favor the over 1.5. I mean, if you look at the guys' height and like the tail of the tape, so 6'1" to Acosta's 6'4", and then 78-inch reach to 75. I think if De Lima is looking to get these takedowns, it's going to be a little bit of work against the cage, which probably will burn 1 minute to 2 minutes to land a takedown. And I don't think it's going to end like instantly on the ground, on the mat, if it gets there. So I just think that will pretty much stall the fight. It's going to drain the clock, and that over will probably hit, unless he just bonks him in the first round, which we haven't really seen how good or how bad the durability is for Acosta here. But yeah, I do lean for the over 1.5. I mean, a bet that I would be interested in, I just don't know what the line is since I don't have those markets, is the finish only for De Lima. That would be something that I'm looking towards, but that's probably similar to the money line, given the finish equity of Acosta is very, very low here. So that's the only thing I'd be interested in personally.
Marcos De Lima, it's about the same as his money line, -170 for the win inside the distance.
I'd much rather have that than the money line.
Yeah, so that's where you're at on that. Probably a little bit shorter on some other. Maybe DraftKings is a little bit shorter by a couple of cents, but yeah, I think they have to make it over under 1.5 just because of De Lima. Basically, like most of his UFC fights have ended inside of round one, for or against him. But yeah, that's usually the kryptonite is the submission game, right? He's been submitted like 5 times, probably all in the UFC. So that's something you're not going to get from the game plan of Salsa Boy. So I think he's probably the side here. But yeah, if God forbid he gasses out in this fight and you're paying chalk in this guy, I just want to stay away from this fight from all angles. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody dies in round one. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes a very, boring, lackluster 15 minutes. That's just what you're getting from this level of heavyweight. So excited to see it, though. You'll never catch me complaining about seeing a heavyweight fight, no matter how slow it becomes. But we're going to make up for it in our next fight at featherweight. We've got Julian Erosa taking on Fernando Padilla, who's a very exciting debuting fighter, Mexican fighter at 14-4 record. Juicy J, Julian Erosa, on like his 10th stint in the UFC, all said and done, this guy's been in and out of the organization over the years. Always exciting fighter, just not always showing good durability. In fact, he was knocked out by, God forbid, he was knocked out by Bruce Leroy Caceres. One of my favorite fighters is Bruce Leroy. Never thought I would see the day he'd get a knockout in the UFC. He's fought like 25 times. Very flashy striker, and then almost gave up on his Taekwondo background and just said, I'm going to be a BJJ guy and start choking people out since I can't knock him out. And then Juicy J gives him the opportunity, deads him with some follow-up ground and pound strikes in his last fight. And that wasn't that long ago, dude. Like that was, just a couple months ago? We're looking at December 17th, the last fight card of 2022. So, okay, we're looking at a little over 4 months since he got knocked out. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but very good front chokes from Erosa, very good forward pressure. Another one of these guys, Wiz, we talk about the hands low style, keeping the chin exposed, relying on that head movement. And, I don't think Erosa's got the reflexes to avoid the strikes the way that a guy like Charles Johnson does, keeping the hands low. Very awkward style. Both of these guys are 6'1" at the weight class. Big, lanky, gangly looking physiques at 145. And I think Erosa, man, I think he might get knocked out in this spot, even though Padilla is a grappler. So he's got nice Muay Thai. I like all the tape that I saw on Padilla, and I think he's a good pick here. Another one of those spots where I think the money line has gotten away from us a bit. Like you're getting like what, plus 140 or something I saw recently on Padilla. Now he's down to what are we looking at here for Padilla? I saw like plus 111 earlier as well. Like it's getting down. People are taking that plus 110 on Padilla, minus 130 on Erosa right now. People are taking that Padilla love, and the guy's a finisher too. So I think even playing the prop, getting him inside the distance is not a bad look. I could see a knockout. I could see a club and sub. What do you like about Padilla, man? What are your impressions of this guy coming into his debut?
Yeah, here's the thing. Padilla has horrible takedown defense, and when I say horrible, it's actually horrible. And his cardio fade really bad. When he gets taken down, he seems like he wants to accept bottom position, but it's mainly because he's one of those 12-9 guys. He's jiu-jitsu, and he looks for those submissions off of his back. He can get the subs, but he's not the most opportune grappler when it comes to being off of his back. Striking wise, he does carry some power, and giving that Erosa fights with those hands down, and he trusts the chin a lot. Who are the guys that we've seen Erosa struggle with? It's the people that are lanky and match him with the reach and the pace. I think he's going to be able to exploit that poor striking defense of Erosa. I can't lay the juice with Erosa, even though now it's almost non-existent. Just because Erosa tends to get himself into barn burners when it doesn't need to be like that. I mean, if he was smart, he would just take Padilla down instantly and just ride the fight out until he gasses out and then start to strike with him. I pick Erosa to win, but I do think Padilla is the rightful side if you wanted to bet on it earlier before this line move. But yeah, I think this is going to be a very fun fight to watch. I do expect a finish, so unders will be. I'll be paying attention to those unders, and yeah. Give me Padilla at the earlier line. If you got that earlier line, hats off to you.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's a very good observation. Looking at the physiques of these guys that give Julian Erosa trouble and knock him out. Sungwoo Choi, very big guy for the weight class, knocked him out. Julio Arce, Devontae Smith, even though he's not the tallest guy going, he's got super long reach. And these guys are the ones knocking him out over his career. Even guys like Sean Woodson, Steven Peterson a couple of fights ago, giving him trouble and piecing him up, at least before he could come back and get the victory. The Hakeem Dawodu fight, that was an interesting one because he was able to – that was a fight where everybody's like, oh, man, the chin of Erosa, it's going night-night to Dawodu. And then Dawodu, super low output and got out-grappled the whole time. That could be a sign of things to come for this fight, like you were talking about the bad takedown defense of Padilla. I just wonder if the time off – at his age, we're looking at 26-year-old Padilla. So when he took his layoff over the past year and a half, he was 24, 25. I wonder if that's like a formative period where he could come back and look refined. Fighting in really good organizations, CFFC, LFA, Fury FC. The guys looked very, very good. 4 knockouts, 8 submissions, over 14 wins. So I think just given the fact that Julian Erosa has 23 finishes out of his 28 wins as well, this could spell violence. So I'm going to take that minus 180 fight doesn't go to decision on this fight, I'm pretty sure. So I'm liking that one on Bovada, and I think on DraftKings it's the same price. So I like that spot here. Don't have to pick a side. Although we've never seen Padilla finish before, I wouldn't invest too heavily on that just because we just don't know. But I think Wiz is onto something with the grappling deficiencies that he could probably dive on. Like Julian Erosa could hurt him. You could see Padilla dive in for a takedown, get one of those famous front chokes from Erosa. Anything is possible in this spot. I just think it will be violent. So good to see you in here, Victor. Saying, what's up, Patrick? Wiz in chat. Joining a little late, but I'll rewatch from the beginning once the live is over. Always good to see you. Along with my guy, Justin Villegas, saying that Rogerio de Lima is looking like the Rock Black Adam. Maybe I could too if I shave my beard. Who knows, man? I don't even want to know how many chins have grown underneath this goatee at this point. It's been so many months of good eating since I've grown it now. So we'll save that for another day, my friend. Good to see you, Justin. I just realized something about the Rogerio de Lima fight, Wiz. I think the reason I don't like this guy in the back of my head is because his nickname is Pizzao, which is stealing the nickname of one of my favorite UFC fighters, Antonio Silva. Bigfoot Silva was also Pizzao. I just realized that's a copycat nickname. Kind of like a Brazilian spinoff of the Russian Ronda, just stealing nicknames.
Dude, it's literally any bigger Brazilian dude they call Pizzao. Yeah, anyone that's a bigger Brazilian guy, heavyweight.
Even guys that aren't that big, they call Pizzao.
No, that would be a surprise. Like Davison, Pizarro, Figueiredo. Like, no,
Yeah, that would be awesome. That's what I would call him if I was in his gym. I'd call him that just to make myself laugh.
Because I looked this up because I was like, what does this word mean? So I had to look it up on Google, and it was like it literally translated to Bigfoot.
I like those archaic Brazilian nicknames. You don't know what it means, and it just means something weird. Yeah, Pizarro. I liked Toquinho, Tree Trunk from from what's his face? Why am I blanking on his name now? Starts with an R. Husamar Pilares. That guy. a guy that I once touted as the man that would have beaten Anderson Silva if given the right night. You know, I think he could have dove on a leg lock and tapped him out if given the chance. The right night, dude, that could have happened. We could have seen Husamar Pilares with that gold around his waist, but we'll never see it happen. Poor guy. Another guy that was roided out of his mind. Those are always my favorite.
Oh yeah, Shoeface is a good one.
Shoeface. Very good. Yeah, you could go the list. We should make a compilation list of all of our favorites. Just go over it one day in an off week. But we can.
No, nothing is better than the ginger with intent to injure. Whoa, that's the best.
I don't even know what that guy's name is, but I've seen his tapology before.
I think it's Rick Pfeiffer or something. Let me look this up.
Is it Joe Pfeiffer's younger brother? His ginger brother?
Dude, it could be with intent to injure. Let me pull this guy's name up real quick. Yeah, Rick Pfeiffer. Yeah, Pfeifer. Rick.
That guy's certainly related to Joe Pfeiffer. Be like Rick Pfeiffer, dude. Be like the ginger.
I'm gonna have to do this. He looks like he's ready for a fight.
It sure does. He's got intent. That sounds like a charge that you would get on your record. You get arrested with intent to injure.
I mean, he's from Alberta.
Yeah, it's the meanest Canadian.
Yeah, the meanest Canadian
ever live. All
37.
Right, we can move along to another scary Brazilian that's jacked out of his mind. Rodolfo Viera at middleweight taking on Cody Brundage, and another spot here where people are kind of like the Stephanie Egger fight, hammering the props for Viera to finish this inside the distance, finish it early, and likely finish it by submission. We once again see Cody Brundage making a underdog spot here, although the line has tightened up a bit. There's been some Cody Brundage love, and I do like the guy's style, man. He's now plus 190, minus 225 is about the cheapest you're going to get on Rodolfo Viera, who was around like minus 300 earlier in the week, I want to say, like over the weekend. Man, the unders in this fight I like. Fight goes to decision, no. Minus 350. The under 1.5 is about a pick 'em. I like that spot. I'm looking at under 2.5, minus 260. Don't even mind sprinkling that because I think that gives you a lot of time for things to shake out in this fight. Cody Brundage, very front-loaded fighter, likes to get the job done early, very aggressive, but his wrestling is usually the key to him getting a lot of his damage and work done in the fight. Don't want to be rolling around on the mat with Rodolfo Viera, who's a super high-level international champion in BJJ. We've seen the guy's cardio fail him in the past. That could give Brundage an opportunity to get like a round 2 stoppage at some point if that happens again. But I think Viera is pretty solid. That might have been a one-off in that Fluffy Hernandez fight. I like Viera to get a takedown of his own in this fight. His hands aren't that bad. I think he will dive on a leg and force a scramble, and he'll probably take the back and get a submission in this fight, probably under 1.5. So that's where I'm at with this one. But dude, Brundage round 1 is like a mythical creature. Like that guy could make something happen out of nowhere. We saw the way he chinned Tresean Gore. We saw the way that he came back and got a guillotine with what's his face? Why am I blanking on everybody's name tonight? Who did Brundage get a guillotine over? Dulce Lumbiambula. Yeah. So this guy's always pulling victories out of nowhere. I think he could do it again, but it's probably round 1 or bust. So I'll take Viera in this fight. I think he's more well-rounded. What do you got here, man?
Yeah, I mean, Cody is a friend of the channel. Shout out to Lou for introducing me to him. This is likely another violent spot for me where I think both guys can find a finish early. I mean, obviously we know Viera has that slick sub game and Brundage has real power in his hands. I mean, we saw it against Gore, as you mentioned. That was nasty. No one expected that. And then these fighters find themselves getting their finishes under 1.5 rounds, and that is a bet that I'll be looking to take and target. So under 1.5 rounds, I think this doesn't go past the first. Whether it's Brundage getting that knockout or if it's Viera getting the takedown, finding success there, and just getting the sub. But yeah, I'm rooting for Cody Brundage. I'm just, like I said, only targeting the under 1.5.
What do you think about the durability of Cody Brundage? Like, is there something to be like the guy's getting rocked in a couple of fights? And the Mikhail Oleksiejczuk one, like I know Mikhail is a power hitter, but I feel like it didn't take too many ground and pound strikes for Mikhail to knock him out like unconscious last time out. 3 minutes, 16 seconds. We saw Cody Brundage get a couple of takedowns on Oleksiejczuk, not maintain very good top control, get reversed, and end up on bottom and, punched out cold. Is there something to be said about like the chin of Cody Brundage? Is that an issue in this fight? Or is it like cardio based? Or like what causes his downfall?
I think he's just faced some really hard hitters. To be honest, once you get that button hit, it's hard to recover quickly. We've seen it happen time and time again in the UFC when you have a really hard hitter and finds the button. The guy is usually dropping unless he has some sort of stone chin. Yeah. And once you drop, if the guy's an opportune finisher, which Dalcha was not, they tend to finish the fight. Dalcha had Cody rocked multiple times, and somehow he found that guillotine finish because Dalcha randomly decided to grapple, which is very weird. He should have just let him off the cage.
And then tap right away.
Yeah, that was a deep guillotine, to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. But that's probably what it is. And Rodolfo Viera, not known for that power. He's not known for the striking at all. It's just a sub game. And with the wrestling credentials that Brundage has, I think maybe he can stay safe or somewhat safe and negate those takedown attempts. Probably hit the button himself. Who knows? But yeah, I'm rooting for Cody.
Yeah, I am too. I like the guy's mentality. He seems like a cool guy based on the content that you've done and the MMA engine and things like that. He seems super cool. I'd love to see him grow into himself and get some momentum here. But yeah, he's facing nothing but tough opponents. Always coming in as the underdog. And I liked the under 1.5 in his last fight against Mikhail because that was just, two guys that are front loaded. Both guys have like a multitude of their fights ending in round one, especially Oleksiejczuk, who we'll talk about in a second. This fight, Rodolfo Viera is quick as well, but he can take his time. He can just wrap you up and search for the choke. And if you got a guy like Cody Brundage, who's pretty well-versed in like anti-wrestling, potentially, yeah, he could maybe stave off the submission and it won't come until later. But either way, at a pick 'em price tag for how these guys fight, I think the under 1.5 is a good sprinkle. And I probably will have a bit of that and maybe just stack it with a little bit of the under 2.5 as well. Those are two unders that I like on this card. So yeah, we're on the same side of this bet as far as who we're picking, how we're betting this fight from a time perspective, and who we're rooting for as well. I think we're hitting all three of those on the same side.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And you know what? I feel like this whole breakdown, I think there's only that one fight where we disagreed, which was the Johnson fight, right?
Yeah, Johnson and Durden. We're on slight opposite sides of how that one shakes out. Otherwise, yeah, we've been pretty on point. Justin Villegas, yeah, I remember Inside MMA with Boss, dude. That was amazing. That was a great show, and that was like one of the few programs at the time where you get like a solid hour of people just talking mixed martial arts back in the day. Otherwise, you did have John Anik for an hour on like ESPN, 3 or something like that. Once a week, they would do that show with him talking mixed martial arts. But now we've got all kinds of MMA content, and we are just thriving. This is a great day to be an MMA fan. So we can move to our co-main event. Caio Borralho taking on Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, we just talked about briefly. 185-pound fight here. I do like both of these guys quite a bit. Caio Borralho, man, he's a massive favorite. Money has just been pouring in on him. I did have him parlayed with Natan Levy in like a juicy parlay there where I think I had Natan Levy at minus 265, Caio Borralho at minus 295. And now I'm just stuck with 2 units on Caio at minus 295 because that Levy fight got canceled. So I don't hate it. Like, I feel like Levy was definitely the riskier, oddly enough, that was the riskier part of that parlay, which is saying something because Oleksiejczuk is, super powerful early, great boxing, probably the better traditional boxing up close, but Caio's got that nice southpaw karate-based style. He'll kind of lull you into thinking that you're striking with him and you guys are going to duke it out, and then he'll just blast double leg you, wrap you up like an anaconda, get the hooks in, and he's looking for chokes, but, he's just able to squeeze that body triangle for, the majority of a 3-round fight and just do it over and over again. So I think this fight will look like that Armin Petrosyan fight where he'll strike with him for like 30 seconds to a minute, get him to overcommit, and then shoot for the takedown, secure that, and probably win a control-based decision here if not finishing this fight, because we have seen Oleksiejczuk subbed a couple of times in the league. So am I far off on this man, or do you think Oleksiejczuk is going to knock his head off?
I think you hit the nail right on the head. And Michal has been subbed multiple times in his career, as you mentioned, and Caio has a massive advantage once the fight hits the mat. Has that solid power on the feet, but Caio has shown that he's able to land takedowns consistently at the UFC level. So he tends to hold these guys down, hold them on the mat. In the striking, obviously, the Michal has that power advantage, but a lot of people sleep on Caio's striking credentials. He's very accurate when he hits. He does have power at stand. Not to mention, this is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, so I'm not sure if Michal has faced a southpaw in his career, so it might take some time adjusting to it. And the kicks from Caio, I think, are going to make the difference too. He has some really nasty southpaw, the kicks from the back. So I think we see the BJJ shine in this matchup from Caio. I think he grabs a sub win here. And I don't think it's going to take too long for Caio to get this sub, given how I think the frame of Michal is just a little bit too small, even at this weight class, given that he dropped. I still think he's small for the division. So, yeah, give me Caio.
Yeah, I like it. We did see that striking on display in his second appearance on the Contender Series, scoring that nice left straight down the pipe that, just makes its mark at a distance where you just don't think you're going to be hit, right? Like the guy did not think he was going to get hit, and all of a sudden he was eating that giant neck-snapping whiplash left straight, followed it up with that right hook, and then he was just ground and pounded out. So we do see that. And you're right, he's accurate. Like he doesn't throw often, but when he does, it's with intent, and he knows he's going to land. So I do like that about his game. And I wish we would see more of that. It's exciting, but from a gambler's perspective, with a juicy now money line bet on him, I hope he does just take this to the mat, path of least resistance, and hopefully sync up that submission nice and early. But the finished props on him are they very enticing? I need to go look at him again.
I have not peeped at his finished props yet, but what I was going to mention was that Caio, a lot of people don't talk about this in these breakdowns, and it's true. This is probably the most underrated thing in someone's MMA game, and it's the fight IQ. I think Caio is a very smart fighter. Like he knows where the advantage is. He knows where the advantage lies, and he acts that weakness of his opponent over and over again. And obviously, his last couple of matchups, he's faced guys who don't really have the best grappling at all. But what has he done? He's taken the fight to the mat and he just drowned them. I've been a huge Caio truther. Caio line, my biggest bet when he faced Petrosian. I just took him straight up, even though it was slightly juiced. It was fairly easy for him to just ride Petrosian on the mat for those 3 rounds. So big Caio truther. I might be a little bit biased, but I mean, it seems like everyone in the space has that same take where he's going to take him down and drown him, either sub him or just win a decision.
I had a big play on Caio that night as well, but it wasn't a straight bet. It was a giant parlay with him, and it also had what's his face on it as well. God, why am I blanking on his name? It was a very close fight. Said Nurmagomedov. It had him on it. So that was a much closer fight against D. Silva de Andrade, but both guys cashing it, Caio making it look very easy. And that's a very good fight, man, because like Armen Petrosian versus Caio at the time last year, people thought it was going to be fireworks. Like these guys are going to duke it out. You know how Petrosian style is. And Borralho, he said, no, none of that. This is going to be a boring fight. I'm going to win this fight decisively.
I love it.
And I love that about him. Love it. All about the high fight IQ. And fight IQ is not something that we discuss when we're talking about like a Volkanovski versus a Makhachev, right? Like the top guys, we don't even talk about fight IQ. It's only these guys that are like right around. Are they going to be ranked? Are they not? And usually the guys that make better decisions we end up seeing for a long time successfully. So I'm excited for this one. Absolutely. And I like Michal Oleksiejczuk is a cool fighter as well. His boxing is nice. You feed him some bums like Sam Alvey's another southpaw, right? That he fought. So that's a guy that was a fun matchup. But like when there's going to be a round one knockout, I like those fights for him.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Alvey, like he doesn't really have too much to offer against at this point in his career. As sad as it is to say, like with all due respect, there's levels.
Yeah. Who's another southpaw? Like Dustin Jacoby probably screwed him up just by switching to southpaw on occasion.
Yeah,
something like that. But that is a good look. This will be a wacky fight with the mirrored stances of these two southpaws. But that is it, man. We made it through the co-main event. We are moving on to our bantamweight main event: Yadong Song versus Ricky Simone. hit the like, hit the subscribe button, you guys. All of you live 21 viewers in here, thanks for hanging out with me and Wiz on this Fight Night card. And check out the description for, of course, WizzDoes, his Twitter and his YouTube. Make sure you go over to my man's YouTube and get this man some more popularity over there. He does amazing work. You're going to be seeing a lot more diverse content, more than just betting content. This guy obviously can break down a fight, but he can talk to these fighters as well. So very talented guy. Thank you for being here with us, Wiz. Let's break down Ricky Simón taking on Yadong Song. 5-round this time in this bantamweight clash. And this is another spot where it's like a big battle on Twitter because this is a very close fight. Some guys are taking Ricky Simón, the grappling, the over 6.5 takedowns on average over 15 minutes, over a large sample size for Ricky Simón. Seems to have good cardio. I don't think that's going to be different now that he's going into his first 5-round fight. And he's starting to get power in his hands too. We saw him club and sub Jack Shore, break that guy's undefeated record his last outing. But Yadong Song, for as young as this guy supposedly is at 25, he's had a pretty good career in the UFC so far as well, tasting defeat a couple of times, getting some close decisions that maybe he should have lost. But, man, he proved a lot of people wrong against Corey Sandhagen that was going to be a walk in the park for Sandhagen. That was a close fight. The cut stoppage eventually ended it at the end of 4 rounds. But very competitive fight, man. We saw the growth in his takedown defense, a little bit of wrestling offense of his own. I think this is going to be a very fun fight. Probably a battle of who breaks first, who gets tired first, and who gives up implementing their game first. So I do find myself on the Ricky Simón side. I think 5 rounds does give him a little bit more of an advantage in this fight. I just think he's got more minutes to just chip away, doing more in the fight, which is going to be going for takedowns, keeping Yadong Song on his back foot, hesitant to throw, and just smothering him. And I think Ricky Simón is going to be one of those cases where he attempts so many takedowns that at a certain point he can start getting the striking game going too, because, we're going to see Yadong Song try to sprawl and brawl, not expect those big winging hooks that hit Jack Shore's chin, go on the chin of Yadong Song. So I'm taking a couple unit stab, now at a nicer money line, -115 for Ricky Simón. But this is, honestly, guys, this is a fight that I would rather have stayed away from. I got excited watching Ricky Simón tape. I put a bet on him, think he gets it done, but this fight is so close for a reason. So, no matter what side of this you have, you're probably going to be sweating it. It might just be a good pass spot. But Wiz, which side of this fight are you on this week, my friend?
Man, I think this fight could age to be one of the deals of the year on Song Yadong for multiple reasons. Yeah, I've seen a lot of love for Ricky. I understand that the threat of the takedown is immense here, but one thing you have to consider is this guy Yadong Song has faced some grapplers in the UFC. I mean, I'm not going to say Corey Sandhagen is a prolific grappler or wrestler by any means, but immediately pops up every single time. When was the last time you saw someone bring it to Corey Sandhagen in the striking realm, besides Peter Young? I mean, this guy Song hits with insane power. He's going to have the speed advantage here in the striking as well. And he has more combos and more ability to mix it up and create those strikes at different angles where Simón really hasn't seen before. Look at the record of Ricky Simón. Yeah, obviously 20-3. His last couple wins, Jack Shore, Sunset Kelleher, and Gaetano Pirello. Which, no knock on those guys. Sunset was someone on the way out. Brian Kelleher, I mean, seen Brian has been performing lately. And Jack Shore, who is someone who really didn't belong in the weight class. And then you look at the record of Yadong Song, and he's fighting killers. I mean, his last loss, obviously, was Corey Sandhagen. He beat Marlon Moraes. He beat Julio Arce, Casey Kenny, someone that we haven't seen in a long time, too. He beat Marlon Viera. I mean, come on now. The striking is going to be levels. It's all going to be.
Fight was a goddamn robbery, and it was. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, still, it was close. It was close, and it was earlier on in the career.
Yeah, but to imagine the guy was like 20, what is it, like 21 at the time? Very impressive when you look at it from that way.
Exactly. And what a lot of people have been blowing up is the win over Merab for Ricky Simón, and fluke submission, not fluke submission. Come on now.
He had planned that. He planned it to do it at the buzzer for style points, and it.
Yeah. So for me, I think Song sleeps him. Even though we haven't seen durability issues from Simone, his striking defense isn't all that. And Song has put people out consistently. And he's one of those type of guys that has power and has the speed. He's going to be a step ahead of him in the striking. So as long as he's able to pop back to his feet every single takedown attempt, I think he should be fine. And in that fight against Corey Sandhagen, he ate a bunch of shots, a bunch, and he resisted takedown attempts a bunch. And in that fourth round, he did not seem one bit gassed. And to be quite honest, that was 2-2 for me going into the fifth if we did see a fifth round. So when you're putting up a fight like that against Corey Sandhagen, someone who is imminent for like a title shot now, I got to give you your respect. And at dog odds, I'm this close to playing Yadong Song. And I hope I have made a valid argument for the viewers to either stay away from Ricky Simone and just enjoy this fight, which is the side I'm leaning on taking. Like, I just want to enjoy the fight and not have any bias, because it kind of ruins it for me in this situations. Like, I don't like betting on main events as much as I do. And this is one of them where I feel like it's going to be fireworks to watch as a fan. But betting breakdown wise, I have to ultimately lean towards Song Yadong, and I'm this close to putting two to 3 units on him, because I think this is probably going to be a steal.
We're at plus 100 Song Yadong. We're at minus 120 Ricky Simone. Like I said, that's dipped either way. I got minus 115 on Ricky Simone. I've seen even, I think on Bet Online, it dipped to like minus 110 at a certain point. Wild. But over under 4.5, Wiz. Which one are you taking? You're taking the finish for Song Yadong. You think it happens early?
I think Simone can get a sub too. So I do like the under 4.5. And last time I saw it was like minus 125.
Yeah, it's around that. DraftKings right now minus 140 for the under 4.5. If you want to even get like a Song Yadong, because I think if he gets the knockout, I want to say he gets it done within 3 rounds. After that, I feel like it's just probably not going to happen later into the fight. I'd be surprised. Like, I feel like the best condition would be him swinging bombs early, catching him in like a round 2, round 3 situation, right? Like a little bit of fatigue on the part of Ricky Simone. He's starting to get a little bit desperate. He can't land his takedowns. If that were to happen, then I think he gets chinned. But it's probably before the 15-minute mark. Or do you think it could happen later?
I mean, the power carried throughout the fight against Sandhagen for Song. So I wouldn't be surprised, but 4.5 rounds, you're just hoping that it doesn't happen in the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, fair enough. I like the spot. You could argue all day. Like, it's like, okay, the times we've seen Yadong Song suffer, it was from grapplers. Anytime you see him pressured from like a grappling heavy game plan, that's when he's fallen apart in the past. He's young enough to improve. You could look at it from that angle. You could see either guy looks, better in their past performances. You've got all of the experience on the side of Song Yadong, like high-level resume experience. So there's like a lot of angles that make this extremely close, and I think the money line is right where it should be. So I don't see myself getting an edge on this from a money line perspective at all. Like, I think I've got the guy with the skill set that I see winning a fight, but man, it's a close one, and I don't think staying off of this is a bad idea at all. What do you think about some of the decision props, though? Say this does go all 5 rounds. We're looking at plus 500 for Yadong Song by decision, a measly plus 215 for Ricky Simone. Just even that alone, like if this goes and you see the better striking numbers from Yadong Song, he stuffs all the takedowns, or at least the majority, lands some big bombs. Ricky Simone, he doesn't have a glass chin. I kind of like that as well. Like that's a huge for a lighter. I know that the bantamweights have been finishing a lot in main events, but that's kind of wild.
What is the fight to end in split?
Let's see here. Fight to end in split. What's your guess on this one? I'd imagine it's like plus 450, just like the standard.
400.
Yeah, let's see here. Winning method, fight props.
Probably way off.
What the hell? I always forget which tab it's under in this one. Fight to be won by split, plus 700, just to be won by split.
The reason I say that is because the state of judging right now, it seems like these judges don't know what to score based off of damage and striking or control time with the grappling and the wrestling. So
it's always what I look for. Always what I look for with those. Yeah.
So that's how I see it. It could be a situation where one judge is like, oh, okay, Simone had some decent control time and won 3 out of the 5 rounds with the control. But then you have other judges that are like, okay, it's a striking masterclass from Song, but he did get taken down a couple times. So,
yep. Yeah, there's always one judge that seems to be scratching their heads. This is back at the Apex. I'm not sure if the judging is better at the Apex or if we just have come to like know what to expect from them, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like we kind of know based, even if we don't agree with the scoring, we're like, I could see one of these guys is going to be clueless. Whereas like you go to Kansas City, you go to Texas, you go to Florida, and we're like, what the hell are these guys even looking at half the time when they're scoring fights? So that's why I like Wiz when we have like a prelim fight, like the first fight of the night goes to decision, and we can kind of see how they're scoring it. Like you got a striker versus grappler in the prelims, a fight I don't have any action on. We get to kind of judge and see what we're in for.
Absolutely.
You know? So,
absolutely.
All right. Put a shirt on, Wiz. What are you doing?
You want me to show you the guns?
Beautiful. Yeah, Victor kind of agreeing with you with not putting things in the main event just because he wants to enjoy the fight. I'll get to that level of maturity one of these days. I'm not quite there yet, but well, we did it, Wiz. We are on opposite sides of that one, and I think only the Durden Johnson fight, right? And there was one other.
Absolutely, yeah. That's it.
Yeah, that was it. So pretty on point with these 11 fights, you guys. So thanks for joining us. Good luck in all of your betting action this weekend. Wiz, let the people know one last time where they can find you, and thank you so much for hanging out as usual, breaking down fights.
As always, Pat, it's always fun to come on the show, and thank you for having me again. I would love to do this again. And yeah, you guys can find me at WizzDoes on Twitter, on YouTube, and then I do all sorts of content tonight or tomorrow night. I still have not decided. I do a breakdown video where I break down each fight in a minute or less. At least I try to. And yeah, I do a lot of fighter interviews. At least once a week, I interview a fighter or MMA personality, MMA player, called Personality Picks, and looking to provide more content, betting related and media related to the public. So keep an eye out, and make sure you guys like and subscribe this video, because Pat's a really stand-up guy. He's one of the closest people to me in the space, and I appreciate him.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we've been breaking this down for a while since I've been on YouTube, man. You were one of the first people I started talking to in the DMs, and it's just fun to talk to somebody else that's super knowledgeable and passionate to, do martial arts yourself full time, basically, as well, in the gym every day, grinding it out with really high level guys. I've got a lot of respect for that. So thanks as usual, all of you guys in the chat. Make sure you check out all of Wiz's content. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. I'll have that best bets and props out with all my betting action probably by tomorrow morning. So look out for that, and good luck this weekend, you guys. Cheers.